Welcome back to the Off Peak, a video series from Charged Fleet covering electric vehicles and fleets. I'm editor and Off Peak host Martin Ramju. In this episode, we get a detailed overview of a new charging service called ClearCharge, run by Merchants Fleet. ClearCharge enables commercial fleets to plan, develop, and install Level 2 and 3 charging stations for work, home, and public locations. With its ability to handle last mile, service, corporate, delivery, and cargo fleets, ClearCharge is designed for any business in any industry with any number of vehicles that wants to deploy EVs with reliable charging infrastructure. Our expert in this episode is Patrick Mitchell, Manager of Charging Infrastructure at Merchants Fleet. All right, Patrick Mitchell, thank you for joining us here on Charged Fleet. Good to have you.
Happy to be with you. Appreciate the opportunity.
So let's start off with the basics here. How does ClearCharge cater specifically to the needs of commercial fleets and makes it different than the other fleet EV charging products that are out there?
So really, the desire that Merchants Fleet has when bringing the ClearCharge products to market is to really provide a suite of charging station infrastructure options to the fleet managers. And so, when we start talking about commercial fleets, really no two fleets are the same. But so we've tried to tailor solutions that really goes to the heart of each fleet and understand the challenges that each faces and provide products that really provides the solution to those fleet managers. So really with the two products that are coming to market at this point is ClearCharge Home and ClearCharge Work. And ultimately, many companies will have vehicles at their home office, their warehouse, their depot setting. And so ClearCharge Work is really the solution that would make the most sense and the best opportunity for those clients. But in many cases, we have clients that have both a depot setting fleet, but also a take-home fleet, or it could be a sales fleet where it's entirely a take-home fleet. And so really that's where ClearCharge Home comes into play, addressing that home charging requirement that so many fleets have at this point. So ClearCharge really takes both of those challenges that fleet managers face and provides a solution to address those issues and to try to simplify that process to the greatest extent possible for the fleet manager.
Mm-hmm. Now, regarding the infrastructure, what are some of the considerations that fleet managers should keep top of mind when they are planning to adopt or acquire electric vehicles?
So with infrastructure, especially if we're talking in the work setting, what we really try to impress upon fleet managers is planning ahead, thinking through not only what the needs are today, or in the next 6 months, but really thinking a few years down the road. The fleet may have a few EVs that they're looking to introduce now, but if they're looking to scale that to a much larger context, then having that understanding as we work with a client really allows us to tailor the solution and the infrastructure solutions for each client, thinking both in the current state, trying to make sure that we address the fleet's current challenges, but also thinking long term and really taking an approach to understand what infrastructure needs to be installed now to address both that near term and long term requirement for the fleet.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of helping fleets address some of these challenges, what are some of the support, the services you provide in bringing that about?
So we have a great team. All companies need great teams, right? And so the electrification team at Merchants Fleet is really a great group of people with decades of experience in many different areas when it comes to electrification. From grants and incentive writing to fleet management background to sustainability background to even those that have built and been a part of the engineering of batteries and solutions. And so it's a team approach. Each member of the team takes a different aspect of that process, and really works through those areas of strength to provide the solution that is truly necessary to help each client.
Now, how does ClearCharge optimize charging efficiency and reduce the overall costs for fleet owners?
So, kind of going back to what we had mentioned before, in the sense of both taking a look at what a fleet needs today, but also taking a look at what the fleet needs in the future. And so if a fleet is talking a few charging stations today, but they know that they have goals to fully electrify their fleet or to double or triple their saturation of electric vehicles, then we really want to take an approach that identifies what will help them today, but what can be installed and acquired in the early stage of a project, so that additional cost down the road is not necessary. So I'll give you an example. Thinking of subterranean work. If there is a desire to install a large installation of charging stations over time, but they may not be necessary all at once, we would look to work with our partners, our installation partners, to look at the entire subterranean work that's necessary, provide the quotes and the opportunity for the client to perform all of that function at once. Opening the ground can be a costly situation, but only doing it once and installing at least the conduit and the concrete bases that are needed for the charging stations all at once. Even if you're not installing the charging station hardware, you at least have all of that ground infrastructure work, the conduit and the bases taken care of. Thinking through with the electricity that's required, with the transformer sizing and working with the utility companies at the beginning of the project to identify what will be needed, again, near term and long term, so that you're sizing the transformers, you're sizing the wiring that's going through the conduit, you're sizing the conduit to address the type of wiring that's going to go through it. Doing all of that at the very beginning eliminates the need of going back and maybe even eliminating work that was previously done to upgrade to something else. It's really taking that holistic view of the project and trying to address as many things up front as possible, to really mitigate any additional work that's down the line. Mm-hmm. And really, again, as we talk about that, it's thinking through the entire project at the beginning and understanding what grants and incentives may be available at that client's location. It could be a state grant, it could be a federal grant, it could be something with the local utility that is only available in that one particular community. And so we would want to understand the locations for the installation, the extent and the size of the installation, and then do a review of the incentives that may be available to the client, so that it provides that opportunity for funding that the client may otherwise not even know is available, or they may not understand the necessity of going through that process. Mm-hmm. So it's really taking that whole view of the project, not just necessarily what is needed today, but thinking long-term and thinking of the entire scope of the project to address all of the needs, and hopefully providing additional funding resources that will reduce the overall cost of the project and perhaps even allow the client to install more than what they were originally thinking was possible.
Mm-hmm. Now, once a fleet organization decides to use ClearCharge, what is the process to getting them started and getting it all onboarded?
So, everything has to start with a contract, right? And so we start off with that process. We've gone through, the contract process with these clients when they first sign up with merchants. And so this is just an additional process to make sure that everyone has a full understanding of each other's requirements. So the client may have a part of this, merchants may have a part, and certainly the charging station and the installation partners all have a part. So working through that contractual document that's required, and that starts the process. And then we move on to the discovery process and really understand what is needed from the client. Again, kind of going back to what we just talked through, and taking that holistic view of the entire project, both current needs of the client and also their aspirations for fleet electrification, and where they see themselves headed, so that we can really truly understand what that looks like for the client. And then we start going through an identification of those grants and incentives, if it's a work setting, and taking things through that review and the full understanding of what that looks like. And then bringing in the partner that will be the installer, and having them assess the electrical infrastructure, assess the needs, the entire scope of the project, and providing that quote and the scope of work, so the client can review that, understand what's going to be a part of the project. And once that's approved, we get into the execution phase, and really getting that project underway, working through the construction phase, commissioning phase, and all the way to completion. And we were talking about home in that instance, and talking about work in that instance, and then when we talk about home, it's a very similar process. It starts with that contract process. It goes through the discovery phase, and the discovery phase is more trying to identify, what is it that we're looking for from the number of employees that are involved in this project. And looking through that list, working with the client to identify and make sure that we have everybody included in there. And then it goes from just gathering that information to the reviews of each driver's homes. We need to understand what their electrical infrastructure is at home. And so bringing in our nationwide partner to assess each location, identify what is needed to potentially improve the electrical infrastructure in their home, make sure that it's appropriate, code compliant, and make sure that all items are in place to move forward with that installation. Then the installation happens. So that goes all the way through, similar to the work state, and through completion and commissioning, and then that charging station is up and running. And in both situations, what we really pride ourselves at Merchants is continued support. And so that may look a little bit differently from either a home setting or a work setting. In the home setting, and really in both, we leverage our charging station partners to provide the resources from a technical support of their product, and warranty support if that's ever necessary. They are the experts. They know their product inside and out. And so we want to put that connection between either the depot client, the fleet manager, the facilities manager, or the homeowner that has the charging station installed in their home. We want to make that connection with charging station providers so that they have the resources that they need if there's ever a problem. Mm-hmm. But Merchants is also there to provide the support that they need in case there's additional questions, or maybe they just have general questions about the program or next steps, or just need to talk with somebody that can provide them information. The electrification team at Merchants is available to work with the clients and provide the resources that are necessary to work through issues that may come up along the way, or just provide some guidance with questions that may be needed.
So I know you've explained a lot about ClearCharge work and home. What does the future look like? Is Merchants going to stop there, or do you have other components of this that are coming down the road?
Yeah, there's absolutely more to come. We're excited about ClearCharge Home. We're excited about ClearCharge Work. And those have been great projects to work through all of the details. And we're excited to bring those to our clients and help them in these settings. But we certainly don't want to stop there, because that's not really where an electric vehicle stops. There are needs outside of the home, and there are needs outside of a depot setting or a headquarters setting. Drivers have needs when they are out on the road to charge. They have those requirements. Potentially, it's during their delivery of product, they need to stop and charge. If it's somebody with a home charger and they are gone on the weekend, or if they have to travel for work, if it's a regional setting, they need an opportunity to charge in the public. And so Merchants is working on a mobile application to really aggregate the charging partners in the public setting, to provide clients with a single solution so that it's not fumbling through different mobile apps and trying to identify which one the client has set up, or perhaps a driver has not set up any of those. And so they would have one single location to provide that mobile public charging solution. So that's ClearCharge Public. And then the ClearCharge Drop Station is the other solution that the merchants is working on. And this is really for a setting, really it's a multi-phased opportunity. So if you consider, what we talked about with ClearCharge work and, the size and scope of some of the installations, those installations can take some time. And, we've seen supply chain challenges throughout the utility industry, transformers, switchgear, and sometimes those lead times to get those products to a depot setting and get them installed can take a number of months. And so that doesn't mean that a client does not still have a charging need while they are installing their permanent infrastructure. And so the drop station is a mobile charging station trailer that can be deployed to a setting to provide temporary charging solutions until permanent infrastructure is in place. It can be deployed to a construction environment. We have clients that are performing construction tasks where there is no infrastructure at all until that construction project is fully complete. And so supporting clients with electric vehicles in remote settings that will provide a trailer-based mobile charging solution to support those clients in infrastructure challenged areas or areas where there simply is no infrastructure. And really the opportunities and the use cases of the drop station can go in so many different directions. Obviously there's so much discussion about weather and the impacts that we've seen from weather, whether it's cold temperatures, freezing and icing, to potentially natural disaster situations where the electrical infrastructure in a city or town or just a single community may not be available anymore for a considerable time. And so the drop station could be deployed to help a client in that area, provide that mobile charging solution that can be used to support an electric fleet in those infrastructure challenged areas at that time. So we're excited about both of those programs, the drop station and ClearCharge Public. Still a little bit of work to go before those are complete and ready for client use. But we are very excited about those and ultimately very excited about the ClearCharge suite of products. Because truly what our desire is at Merchants is to assess the needs of each client, truly understand where those pain points are, where those challenges are, and provide solutions for each fleet manager or each driver to take those challenges and turn them into solutions that the clients and drivers really can use to continue on their road for fleet electrification. And just, if you consider, the industries that are part of each of these products, you think of the fleet manager and the facilities managers that are involved. They have very specialized tasks that they are responsible to tackle on a daily basis. They can take a considerable amount of time and attention. And so as we talk about the ClearCharge products, we look at the opportunity for Merchants Fleet and the electrification team and all of the partners that are a part of Merchants Fleet to take a lot of that burden away from the fleet manager, facilities manager, and just the client in general, so that we can focus on all of the details that would be involved and allow the fleet manager or the facilities manager to focus on their day-to-day tasks that they were hired to do. In a lot of cases, it could be that people are unfamiliar with electricity or with just the infrastructure in general. And so we want to be able to take that time and effort and work on the solutions to be able to partner with them instead of having them try to figure that out themselves. Or maybe they fully understand everything there is to do about it. They just don't have the time and the resources to be able to perform those tasks. And so the electrification team would be available to help them with that. And really, one thing that I didn't mention earlier about ClearCharge work is that there's an opportunity for the client to really right size that for what their needs are. So there's 3 different options with ClearCharge work. Just more that is a basic option that's simply in identifying which charging station is right for the client, working through that process with them and helping the client order those charging stations through our partner network. Then we can go into the plus version of ClearCharge work. Will allow merchants to work with facilities personnel or client identified electrical infrastructure partners that they want to work with to perform these installations. And really taking that opportunity to partner together as a group to perform the installation. And then the pro version is a full turnkey solution where merchants fleet partners with their national installers and their electric vehicle charging station partners and really takes that entire project, the entire burden, and takes that on themselves, provides a turnkey completed solution for the client in the end. So the clients can understand which version is right for them and work with merchants across the board to implement the solutions that they need.
Mhm. Well, there's a lot to look forward to, and I know we could definitely talk about more, and we certainly hope to have you back on Charged Fleet. Patrick Mitchell, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
Thanks to Patrick Mitchell, Manager of Charging Infrastructure at Merchants Fleet. Remember to follow and connect with us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our weekly Charged Fleet e-newsletter to stay up to date on the latest EV industry news. I'm Martin Ramju with Charged Fleet. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again here on another universally charged episode of The Off Peak.